the Toby Collins Coaches Show, brought to you by our friends at Kincaid's Fine Clothing. I'm Bob Sullender, along with the coach of the Madison Central Jaguars, Coach Toby Collums. Coach, thanks for being with us this week.
Appreciate you having me.
Last week, the Jags traveled to Starkville to take on the Yellow Jackets. Jaguars came up a little short, final score 35-28. The Jaguars had the early lead, 21-7 into halftime. Had a little trouble in the second half, breaking into the end zone. Defense was on the field a majority of the time in the second half, but the defense did come up big with some big plays. Vic Hollins, 14 tackles. B.J. Washington, 11 tackles. Sam Rice, 10 tackles as well. And Coach, you go on the road, it's going to be a tough test anyway. And, of course, with Starkville on the other side, you knew it was going to be a tough test on the road for sure.
Oh, no doubt. We did exactly what we didn't want to do. We became number 43, the 43rd victim at their place. I thought we came out and controlled the first half, thought we controlled the line of scrimmage. And we're clicking on all cylinders. And then for whatever reason, we didn't respond after halftime.
Yeah, Baxter and I talked about, what to do in the second half, some keys. And one of the things we thought was maybe a key 3 and out to when Starkville had the ball to start the second half. One of those things that it just seemed like the defense just was on the field all the second half.
Yeah, and, the disappointing thing about that is it was kind of self-inflicted. We missed some assignments. We didn't communicate real well defensively. As far as offensive, not being able to get in the end zone in the second half, we were pretty hard-headed as coaches, I think, at times in the second half trying to run the football. At times they had 9 in the box, and we're trying to run the football. So we've got to be willing to spread it out and throw the ball down the field when people are removing the safety out of the middle of the field. And I've seen this happen before where a loss is kind of a blessing in disguise. And I'm hoping that that's what this is because I think, we went out and we had our way with a good opponent in the first half. And I think we relaxed. I think we really relaxed in the second half thinking that, the game was over with. And Starkville never relaxed. And they kept playing. They seized momentum, and we couldn't get it back.
A lot of times when two teams are so matched up and so even, like Starkville and Madison Central on paper, you kind of look at those other two things, the turnovers and special teams. And, of course, you had a big one on special teams. And that's one of the things that you kind of look at when two teams are really that evenly matched. Yeah,
and I'll say it since we're talking to our people, but, the one fumble that we had on special teams, B.J. Washington, was clearly down. I mean, he was down. His arm was down. We called it from the sideline right off the bat. And I don't know what they saw. Even the line judge on our side thought he was down. So, it's just you're going to win some, you're going to lose some as far as calls are concerned.
Up next, we'll talk about what happened on the offensive side of the ball for the Jaguars against Starkville right here on the Madison Central Football Network, mcbigblue.com, Super Talk 97.3 FM.
Quality, integrity, and excellence. Kincaid's Fine Clothing, Old Town Square, Ridgeland.
Welcome back to the Toby Collins Coaches Show, brought to you by our friends at Kincaid's Fine Clothing. I'm Bob Sullender, along with the coach of the Madison Central Jaguars, Coach Toby Collins. Starkville 35, Madison Central 28, first region game. Madison Central goes to 3-1. Starkville goes to 4-0. Vic Sutton had 7 completions for 163 yards and 1 touchdown in the air. Isaiah Spencer led the team with 5 catches, 124 yards and 1 touchdown. And on the ground, Robert Dumas Jr., 17 carries, 95 yards, 1 TD. And DeAndre Pullen had 4 carries, 22 yards and 2 TDs. Of course, you wanted to run the football in the first half, and you decisively did that with 165 rushing yards. And that really kind of bolstered that first half push.
Yeah, and, like I said before the break, we controlled the line of scrimmage in the first half. I think the one thing that we've got to do offensively, and we talked to Vic about it on Monday, he's got to be a little bit more consistent, throwing the football. I thought that, this was his worst game. Of course, Starkville does some things defensively that you're not going to see week in and week out. They line up and play man coverage, and it's tight man coverage. I mean, they're not backed off, play a catch man. I mean, they're up in their face. So your windows are going to be a little bit tighter. So, I mean, that's probably the first time Vic's seen that. So he's probably a little bit on us. We need to show him that more in practice, which we try to all week. But you can't simulate what you're going to see on Friday night. So, like you said, we ran the football really well in the first half. They removed their safeties off the hash, put more guys in the box. and dared us to throw it in the second half, and we weren't consistent.
Yeah, when they do that, put that many people up in the box, that's something you have to do is throw the football.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of the takeaways from this ball game looking forward?
Well, one thing is I hope it opened our eyes. We're going to have to play 4 complete quarters, and I don't think we've done that all year. If you go all the way back to the West Jones game and the Brandon game, we had a quarter and a half in both of those games where we had a letdown. And fortunately, in those 2 games that, Brandon and West Jones didn't take advantage of it. Starkville took advantage of it. They seized momentum, and they never gave it back.
Region play continues this week. Up next, we'll talk about the Grenada Chargers coming for homecoming 2021 right here on the Madison Central Football Network, mcblue.com. Super Talk Mississippi 97.3 FM.
The right bank. It just fits. With online and mobile tools that give you the freedom to do more. The power to make your dream home yours. And help your business stay on top. Technology that makes one bank fit you to a T. Trustmark. People you trust. Advice that works.
Welcome back to the Toby Collins Coaches Show, brought to you by our friends at Kincaid's Fine Clothing. I'm Bob Sullender, along with the coach, the Madison Central Jaguars, Coach Toby Collums. Coach, doesn't get any easier when Grenada comes to call for homecoming. The Chargers 4-1. They fell to Tupelo last week, 35-6, but both teams are going to look to rebound, get back on the winning side.
Yeah, Grenada's a solid team. I mean, got athletes all over the field. You're not going to see a better looking team. I mean, they're 6'1", 6'2", all over the place. Up front, offensively and defensively, they're big. They got playmakers on the field. So, like you said, it doesn't get any easier.
How does the homecoming wrinkle kind of throw things in? You got the week of festivities, and then of course the game. How does that kind of play into?
I don't know. As coaches, you hate to see it coming. Just because. And I think it's something we, as coaches, kind of invented a long time ago, saying that 16, 17-year-old kids are going to be distracted by what surrounds a homecoming. And I don't know if it's true or not. I think at the end of the day, our kids understand that the most important part of that night. I may offend some people when I say this, but the most important part of that night is going to be at 7 o'clock when we put the ball on the tee, and we kick it off, and the football game's going to break out. So I think our kids understand that, and they're going to kind of have to block out the noise and play a tough opponent.
What are some of the things on the offensive side of the ball that this Charger team does?
Well, they run the football. They're not interested in throwing it, and they're going to try to play, big boy football where they try to push you around, and they're going to run it downhill at you, and then they're going to take shots down the field. So, they got a very dynamic quarterback. So they run some zone read stuff where he'll pull it and take off running. And they got a back that they're just going to feed to over and over and over, and they're perfectly okay with getting 3.5 yards a pop, and then keeping the chains close.
I've always said that 3.5 plus 3.5 plus 3.5 equals a first down anytime you add it up.
Right.
So, all right, up next to the field for Madison Central and Grenada right here on the Madison Central Football Network, mcblue.com, Super Talk Mississippi 97.3 FM.